football is back, and I'm so excited for the 49ers to be back on the field. Interesting insight came in today. Promising insight from one of the greatest players of all time. I'm going to tell you in a second what Tom Brady said about Brock Purdy recently on Colin Cowherd's show. I'm also going to tell you about something that he said about one of the wide receivers who he put in a very interesting category. Also want to give you an update on how things are shaping up for Brock Purdy ahead of Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you're new here, I'm Nate. Love talking about the 49ers. Please consider a like and sub if you haven't yet. I very much appreciate it. So here's what Tom Brady said about Brock Purdy. What makes Brock Purdy special? You're a great quarterback. You should know. You've been watching him now, both as a player who had to play against him, but now you've been watching him, from a commentating point of view. What are you thinking, Tom Brady? How are things shaping up for you?
Sure. So I think it's poise and composure. It's calm under chaos. That's what the quarterback needs to do. And he walks into that huddle. He needs 10 other guys looking at him go, all right, man, you're totally under control. And whatever you say, we're going to do to our best abilities because we know you're going to deliver. And they all have that confidence in Brock as a player. And you're right, Brock's not the biggest. His arm strength isn't like Aaron Rodgers. But if he can play with anticipation, and this offense, to me, even studying the last few days, is a lot different than the one that they had last year and the year before. They had so many weapons the last couple years. Brock essentially was a point guard out there just delivering balls to halfbacks and flip it out there to Deebo and gain yards. And then he's got Aiyuk, catching in cuts and running for a lot. He's, oh, you forgot about Kittle. Boom, we're going to throw over the top of you there. This offense has been in and out of a lot of their great players. And I think getting McCaffrey back is so important.
Now, I'm going to pause him there because the point that he was about to make, you could hear him about to make it, was related to Brock Purdy, and I think he lost his track in his mind a little bit there. But let's start with what the first thing that he said. He talked about Brock Purdy's poise and composure. Poise and composure. Calm under chaos. That confidence that the team has in the team as a player, in Brock Purdy as a player, right? And then he kind of went from there, which that, by the way, is really important and definitely a huge quality that I feel like gets undersold a lot, right? Because it's not a metric. Even when you look at all the quarterback metrics, you don't get one that says how often players are composed under pressure. Like, there's no stat for that, to my knowledge. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But I think that's really important. The second thing that he kind of was like starting to say was that Brock Purdy was doing it like last year was almost like a point guard where he's got so many weapons out there. He's just kind of going to this guy and going to that guy, whatever. Okay. I don't really love the comparison, to be honest. I don't think point guard really works in that way. But anyway, I get what he's trying to say, right? Really, the illustration is he's like a quarterback, and other sports use quarterback to talk about the point he's trying to make. And the point that he's trying to make is that Brock Purdy's been doing it this season without all of his guys healthy, with guys coming in and out of injury, with guys not being available in certain games. And he's been doing a pretty good job. He's had one really bad game. He's had a couple games that are a little not great. But overall, I think Brock Purdy's done a fantastic job, and he's had to adjust in new ways and using his feet a lot more this season than he has in the regular season of either of the last two seasons that he played. So I'm with that. I want to keep going, though. While we're talking about Brock Purdy, and we're going to get to one more thing that Tom Brady said that is just a category that I'm amazed that he used. But let's talk about this here from PFF. Brock Purdy is well-positioned to excel against Tampa Bay's zone-heavy defense. Purdy ranks third in the NFL in PFF passing grade against zone coverage, which bodes well for the 49ers quarterback going up against the Buccaneers defense that runs zone coverage at the highest rate in the NFL. Now, we've seen tweets like this before from PFF. We've seen comments like this before where you get, you got that look in his eye. You see that look in his eye. He's like, oh, I see zone coverage in front of me. I get it, okay? It's not a guarantee of anything, however, because we saw the 49ers go up against a zone-heavy Arizona Cardinals defense and not exactly light it up. So I don't want to get too excited about this zone coverage thing. But I do think that those stats over the long term do spell some general principles that I think are fair, which is that Brock Purdy does well against zone coverage. I think Brock Purdy in this offense excels against the zone coverage. It also helps that this team, they're not the greatest at protecting the middle of the field. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not the greatest at protecting the middle of the field between the numbers. So what do you think the 49ers are going to take advantage of? Yeah, that's where they love to live. That's like their favorite thing. And if Christian McCaffrey's healthy, which it looks like he's going to be on Sunday, then my goodness, it's going to be fantastic. There's going to be a lot of eating happening, okay? There's a perfect opportunity setting up for the 49ers and Brock Purdy to have a great, great game, in my opinion. Here's how Brock Purdy is thinking about coming into this game. If I can get the tweet to load.
How's it different than 2 years ago when you were going through that process for the first time against this defense?
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago was more of, I got to prove to my teammates and everybody that, I can step in and do the role really well as a quarterback for this team and compete in that regard. Now it's like, all right, we're, going into year 3 and we all know what I've been able to do and what I can do for this team. And so now it's, where we're at, we're 4-4 coming off the bye, and it's how can I continue to elevate my game and play at the standard that we need to be successful right now. And so that's the mindset. It's a little different. Obviously, I was trying to prove and make a statement 2 years ago, but playing this defense now, man, personnel's a little different, but the scheme is there. And, they're a good team overall. So that's the mindset going into this week.
Isn't that fascinating? Because all we hear in the media about Brock Purdy is question of his ability. And here, Brock Purdy's perspective, no doubt, coming in confidence from what his team says about him. We heard Tom Brady mention that, right? For what Shanahan, I'm assuming, is telling him behind closed doors in terms of his confidence in him, that he's going out there and his focus is not humble, but his focus is a lot more relaxed. It's not about proving himself, which is great, because sometimes when players go out there and try to prove themselves, they make a big mess of it. And he's talking about coming out there and just elevating his game, just getting better at his game. And that's the mindset I think that makes Brock Purdy good. I think that's part of the mindset that makes him good. He always talks about keeping it simple, right? Just improving every single day. And you can see in his game that keeping it simple mindset gives him a lot of confidence. I don't know how he could stand in the pocket with so much poise and comfort if he didn't have that kind of confidence. That I'm amazed by. One more thing that Tom Brady said that I thought was pretty interesting there. I'm going to go ahead and throw up on the screen for you. Jauan Jennings, to me, is the most underrated receivers, one of the most underrated receivers in the National Football League. I love this. Because one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. Here's a guy who was running what? Like a 4.7 40 coming out of Tennessee that, people were like, oh, yeah, he looks like a good receiver. That's it. And nobody was taking a shot at him early in the draft. And here Jauan Jennings has proven himself to the point that one of the greatest players of all time, many people arguably the greatest player of all time, is saying this guy right here, 1.5, most underrated receiver in the NFL, or one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. That's a wonderful testament to his hard work and his work ethic, his attitude, his ability, and his team as he's been able to find opportunities to make big moments. Thinking most specifically when everybody earlier this season, when everybody was injured, and Jauan Jennings went out there and he was the only other guy there. I mean, he was the only other guy, and everyone was picking him up on their fantasy leagues and like, this is the guy. I mean, this is the guy they're going to go to, and he sure did. And even when everyone knew he was going to be the main target, he still managed to produce at a pretty incredible level. Had the game that was against was it the Rams? Because he had the game of his career, basically, right? I think that's what it was. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments about all this. If you're as high on Brock Purdy as Tom Brady is, or as I am, I look forward to joining you there as always and reading your comments. I'm always fascinated by them, and I keep telling myself I need to get better at pulling up comments in the videos because you guys have great insights, and then I just get focused on the next thing that's coming up, and I forget to bring these comments up. I need to do that. So that's my reminder to myself. I'm excited. Game day tomorrow. Let's go.